This is Grilled by the Staff Canteen. I'm Cara Houchin, editor of the Staff Canteen, and this episode is in association with Westlands, who sponsor our Chefs to Watch feature. I talked to Ben Marks at his restaurant Perilla, so excuse the background noise as the team were hard at work while I stole Ben for a chat. If you don't know Ben, he has previously worked at Claridges, Noma and The Square under Phil Howard. He opened Perilla with his friend Matt Emmerson and has since appeared on Great British Menu. So let's start with, for people who don't know about kind of like your career and getting to this point now. So what I've read about you is that you go to Stockholm when you were 15. I don't know if that is correct. Yeah. And then obviously you did Noma. So what was it that drew you to like the Nordics? Like why did you want to go there?
I think that the whole Nordic thing was just out of circumstance. It was never like a sort of dedicated decision to go down the Nordic side. When I went to Sweden straight after secondary school, straight after my GCSEs.
Yeah.
And I was working for a guy on the weekends, a guy called Ollie Lesnick and a guy called Drew Knight. And they were like, what you should do when you leave school is go abroad, because that's what will make you grow up very quickly. And Ollie had done that when he was younger, and he really believed that was the right thing to do. So.
That's very young though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was super young. But Sweden's like Stockholm's. It's like going abroad for beginners. You know what I mean? Okay. It's like everyone speaks English. It's like super safe. It's not like as sort of dangerous as it sounds. You know what I mean? Going abroad when you're that young, because I had a good infrastructure around me of people that were really lovely and helped me out while I was there. I think my parents found it quite scary, but apart from that, it was good. I could imagine. And he was an English chef in the kitchen, and they were cooking very traditional, classic French food. Okay. So he worked for Michel Braque, and he worked at the Connaught when it was Michel Bourdin, I think, at the Connaught. So it was like very traditional food. So it wasn't Scandi cuisine at all. So I did that for a year. I then came back and did a formal apprenticeship with the Academy of Culinary Arts.
I read that,
at Claridge's Hotel.
How was that in comparison to what you had been doing over in Stockholm? That must have been very different.
It was definitely different. I think there's still both kitchens that maintain a high standard of, through different means, but a high standard of what they do. Claridge is an incredible, unbelievable kitchen. The most fantastic place to do an apprenticeship, because it's such a wide sort of varied cuisines, and also so many different techniques, and so you really get a good overview of cookery as a whole. And I really enjoyed that. That was great. It's a lot to get your head around, because there's a bar, there's room service, there's banqueting, there's a restaurant. There's outside events. There's so
you had the opportunity to do all of those different
it was a structured formal apprenticeship. So it was very well thought out, and you did each section. You went down to the pastry, and Martyn there, who's now involved in Perilla, who's the executive chef of Claridges. He's an incredible guy who's really good at embracing young people and giving them what they need, essentially. He did that fantastically for me. So that was great. And then Noma came and did the pop-up during the Olympics. And he encouraged me to try and get a job out in Copenhagen. Okay. So it was all the Scandi thing was more just out of circumstance. So it was out of a calculated decision that that's what I wanted to do. So I did that for about a year and a half, and then I came back and worked at the Square, and then we started doing this.
And so looking back at that, why did you want to be a chef? And if you could kind of give yourself some advice as a commie, like now, what kind of tips would you change anything? Would you say to people who are just starting out, I wish I'd done this, or I wish I'd done that differently? So I suppose first bit, why did you want to?
I wanted to be a chef because I enjoyed cooking. I think that's as simple as that. And then
because it's a young age to make that kind of career decision.
That's I was very lucky that I knew what I wanted to do while I was still at school, and that and I've never changed my mind since then. So it was very fortunate that I knew
not many people.
Yeah. I just enjoyed cooking. That was it. And then I did some work on the weekends while I was at school, and I enjoyed the kitchen, and I enjoyed that environment. And I decided that is what I wanted to do. It's just as simple as that.
So looking back at how you started, what you did, what kind of tips would you give yourself now, do you think? Because hindsight is a wonderful
there's a few sort of
thing.
finer details where I would have taught myself how to work more organised than I do now. I think that what's great when you look back at it, I think I was really fortunate is I had the three sort of major kitchens that I worked in were Claridge's, Noma and the Square. They were the three sort of fundamental, most important parts of my career. And I like the fact that I think from each of those kitchens I've taken specific parts of me now as a chef from each of those three kitchens. So from Claridge's I feel like I really learned how to cook and the fundamentals of cookery. At Noma I learned how to look slightly outside of the box and to see what's possible within an incredible restaurant environment. And then at the Square I feel like I learned what I love about food, which is about flavour-based food that's always based on it being absolutely delicious, with a real focus on seasonality. And those are the sorts of three fundamental things that I took from each of those kitchens, which I think is really cool if, as a young chef, you can try and craft that from the start. I think I got quite fortunate that just kind of happened. But for a young chef, I think you need to be very careful about where you choose to go and work. And you've worked out what you're going to take from that restaurant, and then you give it enough time to achieve that. So you stay there for long enough, essentially. I think I'd be excited if I could go back and do that again. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Where I could really figure it out and calculate what I was going to take from each kitchen that I worked in.
And you said to stay long enough to get what you need from it. What do you think is long enough? Because it
depends in each kitchen. I think about how much you can take from it. I think there's people now jump about maybe a little bit too much. In my opinion, but I'm sure for some people that works fine. But people that do 6 months here and 7 months there, that makes no sense to me, because how can you ever really draw out from any kitchen what you need to in the space of 7 months? I think a year and a half is sort of the minimum that anyone should be working anywhere, because that gives you some sort of opportunity to really extract what you need to from a kitchen.
And you've obviously mentioned the key kitchens in your career. Are they all chefs that you aspire to be like, or is there other chefs that you kind of set out and you just think, oh, that's amazing, I'd love to do that? Or do you think you've hit a point now where you're very happy and comfortable yourself as a chef?
No, I think obviously you look at other chefs and have massive amounts of respect for what they've achieved and what they've done, or the food that they cook. I don't know if I ever look at a chef and think I want to be like them. I think that'd be quite a strange way to approach something. But there's chefs that I've worked for in the past. I guess what I said about taking fundamental things from each kitchen, that's taking fundamental things from each chef that is based in that kitchen. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing, really, isn't it? So, there are definitely chefs that I massively admire. I think a lot of it is about the way that they conduct themselves in the kitchen and not necessarily the food that they cook. I think it's dangerous to look at other chefs and try and mimic things.
But with social media, I suppose it's quite hard not to look at other chefs.
I guess it's the way that you... it's not bad to look at other people's food, but I think you need to be careful about... It's funny, because sometimes I think I'll have come up with an idea and I'll be really proud of it, and then I'll realise actually a week in that I saw that on Instagram 3 weeks ago, and I would have thought it's my idea, and I'll be like, shit, got to take that off as quickly as possible. But I just think you need to be careful about, it's obviously learning stuff from other chefs. That's what's great about social media, is you get to see what other people are doing, but you need to be careful that you're not changing your food style as a result of that, and that's a dangerous path to go down. You need to stay true to yourself. You're learning something from somebody else, the way they use something, that's fine, but you need to make sure it's not changing your style of food.
And I suppose if you are inspired by what you see on social media, is that not more like a almost like a compliment, flattery to the chef that you've seen it from, rather than copying. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, there's a difference between being inspired by what someone's doing and distinctively copying. It's not an issue for me. I just think, I just hope that we have what we do here that should be inspired by the most incredible chefs within London. That's fantastic that you have access to that.
Yeah.
But you need to. I feel like I need to make sure that our food style isn't changing as a result of that. There's no harm with learning stuff from other people. That's how life should be in general, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
But there's only so far that should go. Do you know what I mean?
So obviously you have Perilla, but before we got to this point, just a question that I ask most chefs is: can you remember the first dish that you were allowed to put on a menu, and how that kind of felt? Is that quite a milestone?
I think the first dish I ever put on a menu was a roast beef and horseradish and tarragon sandwich at Claridges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did that feel? Was that like,
that's mine? Yeah, of course. That's wicked.
Yeah.
Especially if it's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people like it.
And the order comes in, you're like, it's mine.
Yeah. Every time.
Brilliant. And so obviously let's talk about Perilla and how we got to that point, because obviously you're backed by it's Phil, isn't it? And then
Phil, there's Martyn now, and there's Kochs.
Yeah.
Who.
So did you approach them? Did they approach
you? We approached them.
Okay.
And
was that quite like a daunting?
Yeah, of course. Man. That's super scary. Matt was like, you need to. So we found this site and then we started looking for money, basically.
Yeah.
And Matt was like, you need to ask everybody that you know. Like, and I was like, I don't know anybody. And he was like, what about people that you've worked for in the past? And I was like, no, I'm not. I don't feel comfortable doing that. And he was like, no, you've got to do it.
Yeah.
And so we did it, and it took like a bit of persuading and convincing, and a lot of coming down here and looking at the area and a lot of talking. And luckily they agreed in the end.
So that's quite, starting your own place is probably it's a lovely dream, but there's so much, isn't there, that goes into it, and I imagine you've hit all sorts of
course,
like bumps in the road.
Like you see it today. And this is like 2.5 years in. Do you know what I mean? Which is like.
And just to describe to people today, we are sat in. It doesn't look like a restaurant.
No, it doesn't. It's horrible.
So you're just having a clear out.
Yeah.
But things like that. Once you've got the investment.
To be honest with you, I for the run up to it, I was quite calm and relaxed about the whole thing, and then we opened, and I was like, I'm completely out of my depth here.
Yeah.
And I think for the first 6 months, we didn't really have a menu. The format of the menu wasn't right. It's great. It's all good and well being creative, but I think you have to go through a process of learning, being creative, and actually achieving a menu where the format is right, the balance of it is right. It's actually what people want to sit down and eat.
Yeah.
And that's something you need to learn. And I definitely hadn't learned that when we first opened. So there was so many things. The aircon didn't work at the start. There was just the amount of issues I can't explain to you. And
did you ever think this was a terrible idea? What was I thinking?
I think I still think that now. But what I do, I think we got lucky that we managed to stay open for those first 6 months because of all the issues that we had personally and also with the building. But I think we've massively developed since then, and that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we were lucky enough to be able to do that. I think the fact that Matt designed a really cool site to sit in probably allowed us a little bit of time to develop the food.
Yeah.
Where maybe we wouldn't have been that fortunate if it wasn't a cool site to sit in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if people weren't attracted to sit here, and I was still figuring out how to write a menu, which sounds so embarrassing, but it's the truth. Maybe we wouldn't have been afforded that time, but luckily he designed a really lovely restaurant that was appropriate for the area, which meant that people wanted to be in here.
Yeah.
And that gave us a bit of time to work everything else around it.
Yeah, and there's so much more to it than just cooking food, isn't it?
Of course.
So I suppose
unfortunately, that's quite a small part of it.
Yeah.
And that's quite a small part of it. And I think it's important that as a chef that you appreciate that, and that you don't just make it all about the food. That you have to understand that like it's about an experience. I mean, experience seems like an intense word because we don't offer like a 3-hour experience at Perilla, but like it is still some sort of experience, and it needs to be the whole package. You know, if the waiters and waitresses here put people in a position when they're sat down at a table where they feel comfortable and they feel welcome and wanted, then that makes it much easier from a chef's perspective to feed them food that they're going to enjoy, because they're in that state of mind where they're going to enjoy it. And it's so many little things, isn't it? And it's important to understand that and to embrace it and to be behind it, I think.
And do you feel like you're in a good place now? Do you feel like you've kind of
I mean, obviously, like I'm never going to be completely happy. Like, there's days where I'm like, it's all shit, and you know what I mean? And I'm like, everything's terrible. But I do think what we have now is a real core team based here, which took us time to develop, of people that I have massive respect for, and I think are really good at their job. So there's more faith, and it allows people to add something to Perilla. I think we have now a developing food style which people seem to be enjoying, and that's absolutely fantastic, and that probably gives me more confidence to develop as well.
And has that, looking back to your menu when you first opened to now, is that for you, can you see like a huge change?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
There's dishes that I look back at now. I mean, I'm sure it'll be the same, and I'm sure this is what happens for every chef. But there's dishes I look back at now. I'm like, Jesus, like how did we?
Like what?
There's a pea and buttermilk dessert. There's a pea and buttermilk dessert, which was not. I hope would never ever be anything of that standard on our menu again.
Okay, I'm hoping that never resurfaces.
Yeah.
Put that one away.
Yeah, it has never resurfaced and never will.
So when you have your 10-year anniversary, that's not going to be.
Well, maybe it will do. For
you can adjust.
Maybe
it.
one day I'll be able to make that tasty. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Just put it on the back burner for now.
Yeah.
So that's amazing for you though, to be able to see like those changes to where you are now, and in terms of the plates that you're putting out and the menu that people are now getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
It was relieving anyway. Yeah.
And what about in terms of dishes? What's like a typical dish that if someone's not been to Perilla that is you? I know some people don't like the word signature dish, but a dish that kind of this is what we're about.
Basically, what I want the food style at Perilla to be is because it's a neighbourhood restaurant, and that's what we set out to be. I want the food to be approachable in terms of the flavours that are on the plate. I don't think we're here to educate anybody, or it's a neighbourhood restaurant. The food style should be so that people can come back once a week. So there's not like crazy wacky things going on, but there's slight twists and modern interpretations and the way that I think about things. So for example, at the moment we have a dish of sea spaghetti puttanesca, which is a type of seaweed, sea spaghetti, and then we fold that through a traditional puttanesca sauce. So it's a flavour that everybody understands. It's a tomato, chili, caper, garlic, parsley, black olive sauce.
Yeah.
Traditional flavours, but it's a slight different twist on it, and that's what I want the food here to be. I want it to be different from anywhere else you're going to eat, but they are flavour combinations that are approachable, that people can understand and that people enjoy.
Yeah.
So that sort of encapsulates both of those things.
Yeah. Be quite traditionally like.
Yeah, it's very much traditional cooking techniques that are based around lots of pan work. We work a lot with seaweed and a lot of different seaweed stocks that are the basis for a lot of our sauces.
Is that something that you've kind of had to learn yourself about? Like, obviously flavours and textures and things. I'm assuming that not everybody would be able to just pick up seaweed and make something delicious.
I guess it is something that we've played around with. Our cooking is so traditional, but what comes out of it doesn't seem that traditional, which I find really funny because.
But that's very cool. Though.
We have people that be like, "How did you do this?" And I'll be like, say we've got a lemon and lemon thyme posset on the menu at the moment. And people will be like, "How did you make that? It's delicious," and it's literally just how everyone's been making lemon posset for the last 60 years.
But do you think sometimes maybe, I suppose it's just anything modern that the classics kind of get forgotten because there's something exciting and new?
I think there's like sometimes, I think especially at the start when we started cooking here, I'd be doing things in the cooking methods of the way that, of different dishes. But I feel like I started to work out I was doing it more for me to feel like I was being intelligent than actually it was justified in the end. And then when I did it traditionally in the way that I know to do it and would think to do it just standardly, it always came out better than. So we've gone back to very much traditional. I feel like everything we do starts with chopped shallot and garlic, which is like, do you know what I mean? Sweated in a pan. It's like, which is probably quite boring.
But there's nothing wrong with that though.
No, there isn't. There isn't anything wrong. There isn't anything wrong with that. And I feel like we do at the end when the plates of food come out, they don't look traditional in any way, shape or form, and they're not. I don't think we're considered necessarily as a traditional restaurant. But our cooking styles, our cooking methods definitely are super traditional. I think probably the one thing that we do that I don't think is traditional is we vacuum pack all our lettuce in ice water to make it super crisp. But that's certainly not my invention. And that's probably the most untraditional.
And is that something that if you couldn't do that, it would make a difference?
I don't think we'd serve green salad on the menu
if you couldn't do
it. I think
it
makes it so tasty.
Really? Okay. So let's talk a bit about Great British Menu. I want to know about it raising your profile and how that changed Perilla. How has it changed yourself? Did you find it strange when all of a sudden people had watched you on TV and they're like, "Oh, you're that guy off here," or I don't know, did your Instagram start going mad? Like, what's it like when you raise your profile out of the typical industry?
I guess after I'd done it, I was quite worried because obviously I didn't win it, and I would consider myself reasonably competitive. What was fortunate and unfortunate is I came up against two unbelievable guys in that region. So that sort of softened the blow of losing it. I didn't know how it was going to all come across. You know what I mean? You don't have any idea about what it's going to be like when it goes on TV. So I was quite nervous about the whole thing. And obviously, at the end of the day, I guess you can do those sorts of things for two reasons. One of them is to make your restaurant busier, and the other is to compete in that sort of environment. I've never found competing with food that attractive. I don't know if it's probably because I'm scared of losing with something that I care a lot about. Or just that I don't know if I necessarily think that you kind of compete with food because it's an objective love that me and you will have different ideas about what we like and what we don't like. And that doesn't make either of us right or wrong.
It's such a subjective
exactly.
topic,
so how can you compete when it comes down to something like that? So I very much did it. Just we were in a good place with the restaurant. And they asked me if I'd like to do it, and I was quite reluctant, probably because I was nervous of not winning, and also because I didn't know if it was completely necessary at that time. And Matt was like, "It's up to you, but listen, we don't know where we'll be in a year's time, so it's a big opportunity to give up." So that's the reason that I did it, and it's definitely, I think it's definitely helped the restaurant in one way or another, so that's a positive, and that justified me going on it, which is good. It is definitely strange. Like, I feel like every now and then there'll be a table that will look up, and because we have an open kitchen, you can see that they've recognised you, which didn't ever happen before. Unless I knew them, and that gives a sort of different twist on things. I guess I found that quite nerve-wracking at the start, because instead of people coming in those guests, them coming in and judging the restaurant, you feel like they're judging the restaurant and directly you.
Yeah.
Whereas an open kitchen, I found quite strange at the start. Now, not so much.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think, although I didn't win it, it came out as a positive for me, which is good, because if I come out doing something like that and not being able to justify it afterwards with positive outcome, I would have been really upset about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like you work your whole career, mine's been something like 12 years, and then suddenly it's a week's TV program, and that's how most people will judge you, and that's a scary thing to do.
Yeah. Well, it's never nice to put yourself out there ever, is it?
No.
So it's very out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you haven't done much. Have you done TV before, or was that your first kind of experience?
No, I'd never done
TV?
TV before.
So that in itself is probably very strange.
So, like, at the same time, I had to sit like. It was the two boys I was doing it with. It was Paul and it was Luke, and I really enjoyed being in the kitchen with them two, because they're complete opposite chefs to me.
Yeah.
But I had massive respect for what they did. Paul didn't like move faster than 5 miles per hour, and he was like super organised, set and ready. And I don't understand how someone can be that methodical and achieve so much in such a short space of time. And what Luke did in an hour and a half, I don't think I could have done that in 4 hours. So it was pretty interesting to watch two other boys work. And because you're in a studio, it's quite difficult to relate that to it being on TV. Do you know what I mean? Because you're just in the kitchen at the end of the day, and that's somewhere you felt comfortable. So I quite enjoyed the doing it.
Yeah.
It's just a shame I didn't win it. But,
yeah. Would you do it again?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Not at the moment. I wouldn't.
No.
But maybe one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
So and this kind of relates to that. But have you always had like career goals, like things that you wanted to tick off the list in terms of being a chef? And I don't know if TV was one of those, but
yeah, I think opening a restaurant was the main goal that I had.
Yeah.
And then to make sure that was busy. Those have been the two main goals that I
ticked.
Well, I mean, like maintaining a busy restaurant. That's not been ticked yet, because that's a never-ending.
It's tough, isn't it?
Never-ending box. Like, luckily we're busy at the moment, but who knows what will happen next week. That's like, you know.
And what about kind of accolades and things like that? Did you ever have anything like that in mind?
Yeah, I think probably more when I was younger. I mean, it's a difficult question. Right now, I don't think I'm massively concerned with accolades.
No.
Not right now.
And we touched briefly kind of on, you said like you obviously see Instagram and other chefs and things like that. But are there any like other like young chefs that you think are like ones to watch, who you think are ones that are going to be or are possibly already kind of the next generation of big chefs?
Yeah, I mean there's so many of them. Like obviously I think the list is absolutely endless. I think Luke will do something very special one day. Where else?
Luke
Selby.
Yeah.
Joseph Otway, I think he's a very talented chef. He's come back from Relay and from Blue Hill. I think one day he'll do something very, very special. These are people that aren't doing something at the moment, but I think we'll go on to do something really well. Aaron Potter, the old head chef of Trinity, I really like the way that he approaches food. Harry Kirkpatrick, who's now the sous chef at Trinity, I think he's a very, very talented chef. I think those are guys that, I'm not doing something now, but one day we'll do something really special.
Yeah, and is it quite like exciting to be so many young and interesting chefs within the industry?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's only a good thing.
Yeah.
I think the better that London becomes, the better that it will be for all of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The more restaurants there are that are at the top level, the more exciting projects that are going on, I think that can only be a benefit.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many in London. I mean, and not forgetting, obviously, the rest of the UK, but London for chefs is just, it's booming, isn't it? So,
which is great.
Yeah. So how do you find, obviously there are so many restaurants, having staff, do you have a problem keeping chefs, or are you being pretty good at retaining? And what do you do to kind of make sure that you have a good kind of work-life balance for your chefs and keep them happy?
I think at the start we struggled to retain staff.
Yeah.
I think that's where something that I've really had to learn about how important it is to have a good working environment. And I definitely got that wrong at the start, and that was a real negative for us here about. I think I probably took my own insecurities as a young head chef and had a negative impact on the people that were around me, and that was it's wrong essentially to ever behave like that in the kitchen, and it's only ever going to be a negative of the running of the restaurant, and that's something I think I've had to learn very quickly. And I think
what sort of things do you think you were doing that were?
I think demanding too much from people without giving them enough back.
Yeah.
Not maintaining a nice environment in the kitchen. I mean, the hours were too long. I probably wasn't very pleasant to work with because I wasn't necessarily 100% comfortable as a head chef. Yeah. As embarrassing that is to say, but that's the truth. Now I think we're the complete opposite. Now I think we've got a really good working environment. Me and Adam, the sous chef or head chef here, pay constant attention to how everybody is. We don't allow negative, sort of troublesome chefs to come into the kitchen because we feel it instantly changes the atmosphere. Yeah. And also, I don't want to be in a negative atmosphere. Like that's not nice for me, let alone for everybody else. You know what I mean? If I'm spending lots of time in the kitchen, I want it to be a happy place, not an angry, male testosterone-filled, strange environment. That's not pleasant. No. And it's also doesn't produce anything at the end of it that's positive. So. Now we put big focus on ensuring people are developing. That's, I think, what we found that people really buy into if they're learning new things constantly. So we're trying to change the menu regularly and make sure that people are seeing new different things and learning new techniques. I try now to talk to them as much as possible. We'll have sit downs and goals where we think that they can improve and what they're doing really well. They're definitely not perfect at it, but we've managed to now retain a core team in the kitchen, and I've seen what an impact that's had on us as a restaurant, and the guest experience as a result of it. It's crucial to me now that we can keep people for longer than a year. Yeah. And that they're constantly driven and behind the project. So that's something that we work on a lot.
Because managing people is a whole new skill set in itself, isn't it?
It's so difficult. And I've never had to do it. Yeah. And it's not an easy thing. Yeah. But it's crucial, and it should be, I think, really respected. And I find it embarrassing looking back at the way that I behaved when we first came here. Not behaved, but the way that I didn't think about it as the essential part of my job. Okay. And now I look at it as the essential part of my job. It's an interesting flip that that's such a big thing. And I was talking about pilot light in mental health before I came to see you, and do you think that's very important as well for you to look after your team and make sure that they can talk to you if they want to, because mental health in the industry is such a big issue at the minute. Definitely. So how do you approach that as a head chef or someone who owns a restaurant? How do you approach that and make sure that you're implementing stuff to make sure that everyone's okay? Because it's I think it's just about being such a small kitchen like that. It's very obvious to notice when someone's not in a good place or in a bad place. And sitting down and talking to people and encouraging them to talk back, I think is simple but has a big impact on understanding whether people are happy or not happy. I mean, mental health is like obviously something that everyone needs to be aware of, isn't it? And respect.
Yeah.
And giving people an environment where they feel comfortable to speak out about issues that they're having is a really positive thing.
And obviously, you've been in the industry for your entire adult life, so you must have come across people who've had problems with mental health or environments where you've not felt like comfortable. But do you think it's changing? Because sometimes it feels like it's changing, and then something happens, and everyone has just this negative attitude towards the industry.
Yeah. I don't know, it's quite hard for me to tell, isn't it? Because I'm here and I'm not anywhere in any other kitchens. You know what I mean? It feels like to me it's changing. I don't think young chefs in general will accept what used to happen in the past, which is, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's things that happened in the past that were completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
And working environments that were not pleasant places to be. So no one can get upset about that changing because it's a positive thing.
Yes, no, definitely.
You know what I mean? And I think everyone's had to pay attention to that and to think more about the way that they behave in the kitchen. Yeah. And that's a really positive thing.
Yeah, and I suppose you can only lead by example, really, can't you? So
100%.
And like what you've said, you've now realised that this is how you need to approach.
Yeah, like that it needs to be a pleasant place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That it needs to be, because that's the environment I want to work in as well.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to encourage.
Yeah. And so, what's next for you and Perilla? Like, what's your kind of 5 years? Or can you not think 5 years, maybe 12 months?
Someone asked me that the other day, I think for now it's just about constantly developing this and making this better. There's a potential maybe for a few little projects that we've been thinking about, but at the moment it's just about making sure that this is the best it can be.
Yeah.
And polishing this.
Yeah. And is sustainability, is that quite a big thing for you guys? Because obviously
sustainability is something that we're definitely trying to become more educated about, so that we can do things that are positive. We do a few things already. We serve very little meat on our menu. I think at the moment we have one course that's meat based. We recycle all our food waste, and we're trying to be more educated so that we can have a positive impact on the sustainability of the restaurant. And
do you think enough chefs, restaurants consider sustainability yet, or?
I don't think that is not for me to think. You know what I mean? We're certainly not the most sustainable restaurant in the UK, and we're certainly not the least sustainable restaurant in the UK. So I'm not in a place where I can be an ambassador for sustainability yet. Maybe one day, hopefully. But
I suppose the thing is just a little change here and there. It just makes all the
difference.
Well, yeah,
I think what's important, what I think is important for us is to be more educated about it, so that we can have an opinion on everything that we do, and that's what we're trying to be now, is to understand it better and to understand what has a negative impact and what will have a positive impact.
Yeah.
And once you're educated, you're in a better place to actually achieve it, instead of just doing things for the sake of doing things.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that's everything.
Wicked.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed this interview, and if you have any comments, feel free to tweet us or comment on the post. We're making all of our interviews available to download. The next episode is with Jeremy Chan from Michelin-starred Kochs. Find out why this talented chef has never sat and eaten one of his dishes as a whole. And finally, if you like what we do, whether it's our podcast or our videos or even our features, please head over to our Patreon page and support us there.